Time to tune in. Now another Sports Center. It's a movement.
We have the question of the day. Controversial question. This will ruffle a lot of feathers because we all know there's a lot of good wide receivers in the NFL right now. But I got to ask the question. Is Scary Terry McLaurin a top 5, not top 10, not top 15, top 5 NFL receiver in the National Football League? That's the question of the day. What we like to present to you today is proof, evidence of a man who's went up against some of the best cornerbacks in the league, best DBs in the league, and he hasn't been in the NFL that long. Terry McLaurin. Isaac, take it away. Provide your evidence. You know, a lot of people, they're going to blow heat at this. They're going in the comment section. Man, this dude is biased. Now, obviously, it's no secret. You're a HTTR, held to the Redskins, watch the football team fan. Provide your evidence, my good sir.
Oh, well, I'm not going to lie to you. I am very biased. But today, I'm not using my bias. I'm using facts, brother. Terry McLaurin, you know, he came into the league in 2019, and he set the league on fire. But it's like he's the best receiver that nobody's really talking about. You know, even in the pre-draft process, before we even drafted him, I was watching the tape on him, and I saw a guy who, you know, was a 5th-year senior at Ohio State, had been there with, you know, Michael Thomas, Marshawn Lattimore, who he's going to be playing this week as well. Some of the best at Denzel Ward, some of the best that university has had to offer, and he's seen it a long time. So when he came to the league, he was ready to go. And when you watch the tape, you saw a guy who I don't know why he was rated so low. You saw a guy that had the ability to separate with the best of them. You saw a guy that showed elite footwork early and is a burner, a legit 4.35 guy. And, you know, maybe it was the matter of him not having enough reps. You know, it took him a while to start getting the time, but once he did, nobody could hold him. So I'm looking at this guy, I'm looking at the tape, I'm like, yo, whoever gets this guy is going to get a superstar. But when it comes to Terry McLaurin specifically, I need to know before we get into this, like, when you look at a receiver, what are we really looking for in a receiver? One, your route running. As a receiver, your ability to separate is your weapon besides your hands. And when I see him, I see a guy that there's not a cornerback in the league who can hold him one-on-one. And he's proven that. That's not me being biased. Like I've said in the last episode, YouTube is free. Shouts to the sponsor. You can see this for yourself, that he has made the best cornerbacks in the league look like his children. Stephon Gilmore, Denzel Ward, Xavier Howard, Darius Slay. A lot of these guys, Trayvon Diggs. His ability to separate is what I think that's his breadwinning. You know what I mean? And to throw some facts, 2019, this is his 3rd year. Yeah. In 2019, his rookie year, he had 14 red zone targets. Of those 14, he had 8 completions for 57%, and 3 touchdowns. Yeah, not bad. In 2020, he had 18 red zone targets, 9 completions for 60%, and 2 red zone touchdowns. And so far this year, 5 targets, 3 receptions for 60%, and 2 red zone touchdowns. That's 7 touchdowns total since he's got into the league in the red zone. And a lot of those are him going up and getting it. Some of it is him in double bracket coverage. So I'm like, that's false. So what are we really looking at? If that's your argument, I don't see the correlation there. And then to throw some other numbers at you, you know, you do with this information what you will, people, but he ranks 9th among all active receivers in receiving yards through their first 33 career games. That's all active receivers in the game, not some of them, every last one of them. He's 9th. Yeah. He's got the most explosive receptions of 15-plus yards at 11, tied for 1st in the league. His ranks among other receivers this year in receptions, he's number 12. In receiving TDs, he's number 8. In contested receptions, as I said before, he's number 1. And his 25-plus yards, explosive plays, he's number 4, baby. And mind you, all this time, he's had the worst QB play in the league. And when I say the worst QB play, that's not me being biased again. He literally had the 32nd ranked QBR in that time frame. Everybody else, most of the other people in this list have had great quarterback plays, or at least solid, mediocre to solid quarterback play. He's been dealing with the worst, but he's kind of got that concrete through the rose mentality where I don't care who's throwing me the ball, I'm going to do my job.
Yeah.
And, you know, another point that somebody made was, well, I don't really think he has strong hands. I don't really see strong hands. That just, when you say things like that, that just tells me you're not watching film. You're not watching tape. Because for the life of me, I don't understand who can watch not even his highlight tape. Like I was telling you earlier, if you want to get an idea of how good of a receiver watch the all 22 tape. You have to watch the all 22 because now you see the full field. You see every all 22 starters.
For those who don't know the all 22 tape, you just break down that real quickly.
Yeah, so all 22 tape is what coaches use during film sessions. It's a wide angle, kind of above the ground, bird's eye view of the field. So you see all 22 starters, both on offense and defense. So you can pinpoint and pick and choose what you want to coach on, what certain aspects of what players are doing in their schemes, whether it's your receivers, your O linemen, your back seven, your front seven, what have you. And when you see the all 22 film, that's when you really start to unpack and see like there's not really anybody that can hold Terry McLaurin. His route running is literally a thing of beauty, and the all 22 team film really just puts that out there. And to go back about the strong hands point, someone said his hands aren't that strong. So I was like, well, that doesn't make sense because I remember him making a lot of Superman-like catches. So let me go back and look at the numbers. This is all facts, no feelings. You feel me? So I went and found out that currently he actually leads the league in contested catch rate. He was tied for first with 11 contested catches. I mean, if you want to see what he can do, just go and watch the catch that he had against San Diego earlier in week 1. That's just the tip of the iceberg of the type of catches he makes. Go and see the catch that he played against the Jets last year. You know what I'm saying? Like, YouTube is free. It's free to see all of this. Google is free. You don't have to pay to see this. You know what I'm saying? Don't be loud and wrong. Go and watch the film. And, like I said, his 11 contested catches in this year so far through 4 weeks, almost 5 weeks, ranked first in the NFL. He's got an 85.7 PFF score grade, which ranks 5th overall in the league right now. For all of you analytics fans, because I know the numbers are important. All the catches, of all his time, he only has a 2.6 career drop rate. That man is very sure-handed. And like I said, he's made a lot of gargantuan throws. And for most of the time that he's been in Washington, he's been really the only viable threat in our offense. So it's not like he's just getting these catches in the flow of a dominant offense. No, he's literally the only guy that the defense is really caring about. And he's still getting these catches. He's routinely going through double and triple coverage, bracket coverage, and still putting up numbers. So it leads me to believe if he's put him on a Green Bay, put him on a Tampa Bay, and he elevates that offense entirely. You know what I mean? So my point has always been if we can just get a few guys around him, he's going to lead us to the promised land. Yeah. And another thing is he's 4th all time, not active, but 4th all time. 1, 2, 3, 4 all time amongst receivers with 60 or more yards in their first 33 career games. And mind you, this is with 7 different quarterbacks. A lot of the people on that list have had one guy and one great quarterback at that. Yeah. And he's proved, and these 7 guys, besides Taylor Heineke, who's proving to be pretty solid so far. The story is yet to be finished telling, but
currently being written.
White chocolate baby, shouts to the Heine God. But you know what I'm saying? Like he's putting up these numbers with Dwayne Haskins, with Alex Smith, who depending on how you look at it, led the league in the least amount of air yardage with his throws. I think he had something like it was abysmal. Like I want to say like only 12% of his passes last year went past 10 yards.
Alex Smith towards the end of his career, his aerial attack was terrible.
No, absolutely.
Back in the day, San Francisco, even Kansas City, he was really good, but those hits pile up after a while.
Absolutely, man. And he didn't suck, really. He just didn't give his receivers a chance. And even with that, Terry still put up numbers. He also has the longest streak of targets without a drop. Let's see. He's got 190 straight consecutive targets. And of those, 190 targets and 128 consecutive catches with no drop. That's insane. And mind you, when you watch the All 22 film and you see all of the plays, not just the highlights, like every play, you see that the catches that he didn't get are not because he dropped them. They're because the quarterback just could not get him the ball. Grotesquely overthrowing, just severely underthrowing, throwing out of bounds, just not getting him the ball. But when you see the film, you see he's open 95% of the time.
Let me ask you a quick question. I have a list here in front of me right now. There's a lot of big names on it, a lot of big names. So would you agree that the conversation here is like, okay, you've provided the evidence. He's top 5. I agree with that statement. I would say he's top 10, but after speaking with you, he's in that top 5. What other 4 receivers? Now that's the question. What other 4 receivers would you take and put above him? Now I'm going to name some names, and you let me know what you think.
Sure.
DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs. Now we'll probably have him at number 5. Then there's some other really good names. There's DK Metcalf, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, Allen Robinson, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones, Amari Cooper, and it kind of fizzles out there.
Right.
It's Kenny Golladay, Adam Thielen, stuff like that. Out of those names, who would you put above him?
And before I even go on, everybody you named is a dog. So when I name my receivers, I hope nobody takes this to heart and is like, "How could you say that?" Like, no. All of those are
they will.
Receivers.
They will.
Having said
people are
that,
sensitive about their football these days.
They really are. But I would say definitively, as far as better or objectively better, I would say Devontae Adams, just because that man's a beast. I would say Tyreek Hill is a push for me only because he's got the visibility, right? He plays for the Chiefs. He's got Patrick Mahomes. He's off top. You're going to get the target share. You're getting the national exposure. But, I mean, he is the best deep threat by far in the league, so I'm going to put him there. DeAndre Hopkins.
DeAndre Hopkins, yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins, yeah. Because, I mean, as far as route running, I put him as probably the best route runner in the game as far as creating separation. Because people forget, like, DeAndre Hopkins is like a 4'5", 4'6" receiver. But his ability to separate is what separates him from everybody else. And to that point, though, that's also what makes Terry good. But Terry can separate and also is a 4-3 burner. You know what I mean? So there's not too many. It's either one or the other usually. You either have elite separate, like a Keenan Allen, elite separatist, 4-7 receiver. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't really burn anybody. Yeah. But now you're cooking with a guy that can separate and he's getting and blowing over the top of your defense. That's an issue. So we got Adams, we got Hopkins, we got Hill.
And there's I would say Justin Jefferson, man, it's tough because maybe he could be a 5 and McLaurin's a 6 or vice versa. But then you have Stephon Diggs at number 4.
So Justin Jefferson for me is not there yet just because we don't have the sample size yet. This is his second year. And not that he can't get there, but we don't have enough data on him just yet. And he has Kirk Cousins as his quarterback. So, I mean, nope. No.
But the same could be said about Heineke / Fitzpatrick.
That's true. But he has an extra. If we're talking about, I would say Jefferson next year, he can get in the conversation because he's shown his ability. But I think, and this is another point about when we rank these receivers, as fans, we get a tendency to have a lot of recency bias. Like we'll forget what somebody's all about because the shiny new toy came, you know what I mean? And vice versa. The shiny new toy comes or I forgot about my toy because this guy's been doing it for years, like a Julio Jones or a Keenan Allen. Like, how can you say he's better than those guys? Well, those guys are 10-year vets now. You know are they still doing it?
So people know, too, like, we're not talking about overall because if we're talking overall, it's Julio Jones. He's at the top of this list, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. We're talking 2021, October 8th, Like
in the here and now, where as we stand, you know what I'm saying?
and then you have Brown on the is Antonio Brown, who's currently on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Right.
Vitalize his career. I love what he's doing over there, by the way. Not to go off topic, but you have guys like that, like maybe he's number one and Julio's number two. You know what I mean? Like there's still some really big names in the NFL.
And then you had also mentioned Stephon Diggs. The only reason I didn't put him there, I find, and I've said this on the podcast before, I find Stephon Diggs and Terry McLaurin to be the exact same person.
Yes.
They're when you side by side the tape amongst each other,
separation beast.
They're the same exact player. They're the same size. Mm-hmm. They're the same build. Terry's a little more stockier, and I think he has about a half an inch on him. He's got 10 to 12 pounds on him. But as far as their separation ability, their speed, they're very similar. Same about like an Amari Cooper. They're those three, Stephon Diggs, Cooper, and McLaurin. I find them to be they're the same guy to me.
All right, so let's play a little game here.
Yeah.
Start of this. Let's say you and I, we're both Marvel fans. We love the superhero movies. I mean, you and I, we talk. If we start a conversation now, it probably can't end till midnight, right? And it's 8:11 Eastern time. It's just gonna go, and that's out of love. But in an alternate universe, Terry McLaurin is no longer a Washington football team player, Washington Redskin, whatever you want to call it. If he was
play like that,
I'm going to name 5 receivers, and Isaac, you have to pick one. You can't go, this, that. Nope. Just pick one. I'm going to name 5 receivers on this little mini list I have here, and you're going to say which player, if replaced in this alternate universe, would he do better than? Okay. The first player, and this is Terry McLaurin, if he was to replace DeAndre Hopkins, Devontae Adams, no biasness, okay, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, or DK Metcalf. If Terry McLaurin was to replace one of those 5 on that team, which out of those receivers, which one which team would have better results with Terry McLaurin?
Of the people that you said, 1,000% DK Metcalf. 1,000%. And this brings me to another point I was going to bring up. That the receiver class of 19 is probably going to go down as one of, if not the best receiver class of all time. AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, DK Metcalf, and a number of other guys.
But what does he have that DK Metcalf does not have?
Route running. Now, DK Metcalf has speed and he has size. But remember, DK Metcalf, when he came in, was a bit raw. And he's, to his credit, DK's credit, he's worked very hard on his route running. Like I said before, what he did to Patrick Peterson on that Welker route that's manslaughter. But the thing about it is, I don't want to call him a one-trick pony because he's not. He's climbing up that elite level. So I don't want to take anything away from Metcalf when I say this. I'm giving him his roses. But McLaurin brings an entirely different dynamic completely. Because when you look at DK, he's got the size, he's got the red-green hair, you know what I'm saying? He knows how to cook. And it's appeasing to the eyes.
Muscles, big muscles.
Muscly, he looks like Achilles. You know what I mean? Just Johnny Bravo. But like I said, it's the recency bias. He plays with Russell Wilson. That helped his progression a lot further than a lot of the other guys who didn't have Russell Wilson. Terry McLaurin goes into that team. You put him with Lockett, man. Like that elevates their offense to a different level. And there's people that are not going to agree with me. Oh, how could you even say that? I don't care because Terry McLaurin, just to answer your question, is a lot further along in his progression than DK Metcalf is. He just doesn't get the national exposure that DK Metcalf is. It's a lot hard for people to digest. Having a Terry McLaurin as a safety valve while already still having Tyler Lockett, you can do so many different things on offense. Now, a case can be made. You can still do the same thing with DK Metcalf, which you absolutely can. But I think what separates it is that route running ability, man, because they're both burners. But Terry's an elite route runner, and
I'll say this too, DK Metcalf has dropped a lot of big catches throughout the years.
he has a lot of focus drops. Metcalf will go up and get like the crazy catch, but he'll drop the 7-yard slant when nobody's on him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Terry doesn't do that.
He'll be wide open with no one near him for 15 yards. You know, so it's
DK's up there in a lot of unrealized air yards, meaning opportunities he had that he did capitalize on. Terry would shore that up a lot. To make it one final point on your question, you replace DK with Terry, Seattle's offense puts up more points. Simple as that.
I love it.
All those other guys that you mentioned, replacing them, it's a push because I mean you're replacing greatness with greatness.
Absolutely.
That receiver class, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. I've pounded the table since day -1 that Terry is the best out of that class. He just doesn't have the visibility of all this because he plays for Washington. For whatever reason, Washington is just a lightning rod for, polarizing takes. But film doesn't lie. The film doesn't have time for polarizing takes. The film is the film. The game is the game. You know what I'm saying? Like our old uncles used to teach us back in the day. The game is the game, baby. When you watch the film is going to tell you what you need to know. And your opinion and your bias doesn't really matter when it's backed by what's on the film. And the film shows me that Terry separates at an entirely higher rate than anybody on that list.
Absolutely.
As far as those 3 people.
And then final question of the day, and we'll go ahead, Isaac. We'll close out with this. What are your predictions, okay, for Terry McLaurin going forward for the rest of the season in yards and touchdowns? Go. Yeah.
I mean, it's a gladiator sport, so God willing, barring any injuries, of course, for all people, but especially him. My prediction is if he goes along the same rate and still continues to grow with Heineke the way he has, because Heineke's the best as far as the ability to get him the ball in places that only he can get it. He's the best quarterback he's had by far up to this point. And they're building a solid rapport against. If they can continue to build on it like I feel like they can, I can see a final prediction for the year for Terry being 97 receptions, 1,518 yards, 13 touchdowns.
Dang. Okay. I like it. Ooh, that's
what he's on pace for as it is right now. So if he continues that pace, that'll be where he's at.
Turn 100 for the touchdown. King crown gain inside, leading your town. Hit you faster than the sound. Bad boy, throw it down. Yeah, I'm ill. Not my will. Don't cop a fill the house. Listen to the roaring crowd. Drop a like, calm it down. Heisman all the haters mouth. Superhero hit them wow. Packing more action than bing boom bam pow. Touchdown for the win. We live. Subscribe right now.